big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar. As the prophecy was once touched by Joss Whedon inappropriately, I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
Broadcaster Nichols.
And today we have that special reserve. On Breaking Bad, they called it the blue stuff. Today we have an emergency transmission coming out of the Crack Cellar, the deepest corridor that we have in the crypt. And hopefully soon we will bury Joss Whedon in the crypt and save you all from the hell that was the worst comic book movie of all time. Broadcaster Nichols, was the wait worth it?
I feel like Joss Whedon deserves to be like, he gets a mafiosa death,
Yep.
Like he gets put in a barrel full of acid or cemented into a fucking building or something, dude, for sure. He's pissed too many people off. Interesting enough, you Google Justice League or Justice League Snyder Cut, and you look at the little Google side window, where it shows like the pictures of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
You know who it shows first?
Don't tell me Joss Whedon.
The two people that were in it the least, Henry Cavill and Jared Leto. I found that to be awfully disrespectful to pretty much the other 4 or 5 actors that were literally in like 90% of the movie. Well, not even. You have to hit view 15 plus more to even see Jason Momoa or chick that played Lois Lane or I mean, they do got Gal Gadot in the top 5. I mean, that's all that really fucking matters, right? But I guess I'm arguing with nobody here.
Yeah, it's basically a Batman movie, if you really think about it. He leads.
Ben is also not on the top.
Yeah, so if I were Ben Affleck, I would definitely be feeling the shade on that one because it's mostly his movie.
Thick boy bat.
Yeah.
Thick baddie.
So how butthurt do you think Joss Whedon is on a scale of 1 to 10 about the Snyder Cut?
10 Whedons for sure. Maybe even 11 Whedons.
He's pushing 11 Whedons. Impossible.
I mean, we're talking about a guy that named his son Gunther. I mean, I don't know if that's real or not, but I assume.
Do you think anything like this will ever happen again? Like, the whole Snyder Cut thing was like, it was a meme on the internet, sort of like something out of a Rick and Morty episode. Like, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have come into manifestation. Like, it's this weird outlier of fandom actually asking for something that's impossible to get and getting it. It's bizarre. It's oddly bizarre in a kind of a novel way.
It's an example of the times we live in, for sure. Just I think I said this off air, like yesterday or something, but it's just, it truly is an example of the times we live in, where you can see small internet groups, if one of the internet ghettos starts screeching loud enough, so in this case, the comic ghettos of the internet were like, we want to say the cat, and they fucking willed it into existence from God himself, I guess. But you know what I'm really thinking about is that BuzzFeed art. Was it BuzzFeed or Vox? I can't remember, but it was one of those fucking loser outlets where they're like, the Snyder Cut doesn't exist, so stop asking for it.
I remember
wonder
that.
What they're thinking right now.
They're just as butthurt as Joss Whedon is, for sure.
They probably were, Josh. That was probably shadow written by Joss Whedon. Yeah. I'm gonna start calling him Josh, hard Josh Whedon too. He doesn't deserve Josh or Yosh, whatever he's. Yeah. How do you say his name? Joss.
It's Joss, yeah. I don't know if he renamed himself that to be cool or if his parents are weird hippies or what, but it's Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon just looks like a pervert when you look at him. It's funny, like there's some people when you just look at him, you're like, oh, that guy's a perv. Joss Whedon's one of those guys. So when you see all these allegations come out, it's kind of the back of your head, you're like,
there's three things that you can do, right, to look like a pedo. One, be mildly fat, bald, and have red hair. Those three things really culminate together to, not give you favorable odds.
Yeah.
And any benefit of the doubt. I mean, they could be like, did you cheat on your wife? And then one look at the guy, you'd be like, guy's definitely cheating on his wife. Probably with someone that's less attractive.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those moves. I think in 2024, the Democrats should roll out Andrew Cuomo with Joss Whedon as VP. Just go all in on it.
Did you say, yeah, like, are you calling him Kumo? Kumo. Fucking the giant meatball Kumo.
Yeah. But getting back to the movie itself, what you think overall? Like, I think you're positive on it, right? Overall, you liked it?
Oh, yeah. For sure. Mainly because I think I only got 3/4 of the way through the original cut. I don't think I ever finished it.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
And I was like, this is hurting my head. So I turned it off.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm not exactly sure how much of it's new. It felt like 90% of it was new, but again, I don't know how much of the original I actually made it through before I fell asleep. You can tell the scenes that were original because they're just kind of like,
because Ben still can't fit into a suit.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the bat suit. I mean the 3-piece suits that they egregiously use throughout the movie.
They also have a different vibe, too. Like, the new ones are shot more like, I mean, I want to say Christopher Nolan style a little bit. Like, I feel like Snyder channeled a little Nolan in some of these scenes, especially Act 6, which I guess I'll just go ahead and ask you right now. Was Act 6 entirely new? Because I felt like it was.
For sure, including the final end scene.
The epilogue, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It felt like it.
So this is where the movie gets really interesting, because when you see that end scene, I mean, everyone sees Jared Leto's Joker. That's the standout immediately. Obviously, Otherworld, Deathstroke, super cool. Like, I'm more stoked for another Justice League just to see that new lineup because that team looked cool. Minus Amber Heard, get her out of here.
It was jarring to see Amber Heard so much in this movie.
It was, but it's also sad to think that she had such a potential shot in this franchise, but Zack Snyder's vision got quashed and she had to be a terrible person. So it's like, in hindsight, it's just like, wow, how sad. Like, if I didn't think you were a terrible person, I would have thought differently of you in this scene.
Yeah.
But I mean, nonetheless, seeing that scene, back to my original point, what stood out to me was Flash and the suit he had and the long hair he had, because that was the Flash from the vision Ben Affleck's Batman had in BVS.
Yeah.
And that makes you really, really, really think hard about like how much the vision of the movie changed, even considering Zack Snyder came back. Because if he had the forethought to like think of that connection with the epilogue and BVS, that suit, I mean, it takes a lot of money to like build those suits and stuff like that, and film and all that. And you just got to think that suit was clearly the suit they used for that one throwaway scene in BVS until now that the Snyder Cut's out. And then they used it finally in the epilogue scene. And I'm just like, what did they really build a suit that was going to be used very sparingly in 2 movies just to set up a third movie, or potentially, or maybe even a third movie it get used in, and then finally a 4th movie comes out where Flash is using that predominantly, like in maybe his standalone Flash film. It just is like, I really think about the decisions in the wardrobe and stuff like that, and just think, man, this movie's changed a lot, even though Snyder's come back. Like, we're still not getting the original film that Snyder was going to make.
No, time erodes, sort of like water erodes the ground.
Yeah.
Time erodes the thought process.
Yeah. And that whole thing just stood out to me as soon as I saw Ezra Miller's Flash in that epilogue scene. I was just like, wow, that is the suit. That made no sense in BVS, and now fucking 5 years later we see it in another really I wouldn't say it's a throwaway scene is not the correct term, but still a very short-lived scene.
Yeah, well, I do get the feeling that Snyder had a very consistent long-term vision for this. Based on the Snyder Cut, I can't help but feel like we got robbed of the DC universe overtaking the Marvel universe. I feel like if Snyder got to finish Justice League originally and got to make his next 2 movies, I think that we would have been greeted with something better than Infinity War. But because of the way things went, I'm not going to say this movie is as good as Infinity War Part 1, but I will say I like it more than Endgame. I enjoyed this movie way more than I enjoyed Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I try to separate Marvel and...
You can't, man. It's like Coke and Pepsi. You can't separate. You're always comparing.
I mean, not really. I mean, to me, like, DC is old. It's like the original, you know? Superman's like... I'm a huge Iron Man fan, right? Like, my top Marvel movies are Iron Man 1 and, like... I think Iron Man 1 really beats all of them, just to give you a perspective of where I stand with Marvel and, like, you know, what I like to see from it. But I don't know. Even though I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Marvel's had some upper hands for quite some time. I just don't think it's fair to compare the MCU with what clearly Zach and who's the guy that did Joker, the Black Label DC shit.
Oh, Todd Phillips.
Todd Phillips. Their darker approach, more grittier, more, you know, 300 violence, like a lot more cinematic action shots, and well, not so much for Joker, but for Snyder, but just more of a darker tone in general. And MCU movies are kind of like made for kids.
They are.
Know? And as you know, it's just like in my mind, I know you have to compare them because they're like just sides to the same coin, 2 sides of the same coin, but they do serve 2 different purposes in my mind. Not in the comic.
I mean, they're all comic books in the end.
And they're all well, what they're based on is all comic books, but let's be real, like the adaptation from the DC comics to the movies from the Marvel comics to the movies are completely different.
They are now, but it's shifted constantly. Like DC has always been darker, but Marvel also went through a dark phase, and now they're bubblegum. Yeah. I mean,
Iron Man 1
Blade was almost a horror movie. Let's be real about Blade. No,
but
it's Marvel. We're talking
Marvel. That's not the MCU though.
Okay, well, I was talking all Marvel. I'm saying Marvel has gone through phases. Blade was a Marvel.
Didn't. Yeah, but that's a completely different house and ideas and people involved. Like the Blade movies have no bearing on the demographic or storyline, or even when that character will appear in the MCU. Like I think the only thing that you can count on is maybe Wesley Snipes replaying the role of Blade, and then you might have an argument. But right now, as it stands, like, I mean, that's like going back and like connecting David Hayter and what's his name's X-Men trilogy to the MCU, you know?
I don't. Well, no, I'm not tying anything to the fucking Disney bubblegum MCU. I'm just saying Marvel, the history of Marvel movies, because DC movies have gone through. The original DC movies were Tim Burton, man. Like, how different is that compared to Zack Snyder? Like,
well, I thought you were just kind of like making the MCU canon kind of account for the past sparse Marvel movies that were never meant to be connected. Like, I thought that's what you were trying to say, and I don't think that's true.
I'm saying both properties have gone through dark times and bubblegum times. Like, Marvel was a little bit dark with Blade, then it started to go bubblegum with Spider-Man and X-Men, and then it went full bubblegum with the MCU and like the Avengers and what the modern MCU became. Whereas DC started dark, DC started bubblegum, then it started to go dark with Burton, then it went back to bubblegum with Joel Schumacher, and then it went back to super dark with Christopher Nolan, then it went kind of bubblegum again, and now they're going dark again. Like, they just kind of go through these phases, and DC has gone through way more of them, for sure. Like, Marvel's been way more consistent, where DC kind of just never knows, like, really, should we stick with dark, or should we go back to the other side now? And they kind of just flip-flop a lot.
Well, DC's been making movies a lot longer, right?
Yeah, I mean, the very first comic book movie I ever saw in my life was Superman 2.
Yeah.
With Christopher Reeves.
What's the first Marvel movie? Fantastic Four?
What is it? No.
That old ass Fantastic Four movie?
I don't think I ever saw that one. I think the first Marvel movie I ever saw was Punisher, right? With Lundgren. I think that came out when I was 3 or 4.
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren.
So I think that's my very first Marvel movie, and that was pretty dark. B movie, but it was dark as fuck.
It's true. I mean, I don't know. It's Justice League Snyder Cut. I stepping away from it, I was like, it's a good movie. Is it worth 4 hours of your life? I think they could have cut some fat off. I think it could have been baked a little bit longer. But
what's your number?
We're talking about minutes? A movie. I think it could have been like, if you took my considerations into fact, I think probably get around 3:15. 3 hours and 15 minutes. Maybe cut 45 minutes out.
I was going 3:30, but we're in the same neighborhood. There's definitely at least a half hour they could have.
There were some things. So my first point is there was just some considerable marbling around the edges that you could just cut. Just straight up fat you could cut. Maybe some scenes with Lois Lane, for instance, that stood out to me, which just seemed like nonsense.
The scenes with Lois Lane and Superman's mom, like, there weren't very many of them, but they were kind of nonsense. They really, it's funny, they only served the purpose of introducing Martian Manhunter, which I found kind of entertaining. Like, they're like, well, we're going to do this dumb scene that no one's going to like, but then we're going to show Martian Manhunter at the end, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah.
So that was my next actual controversial take, was Martian Manhunter. Really cool. One of my favorite Justice League members. Like, Jacques is really one of my favorite. Just him and Hal Jordan and John, or what's his? Is it John Jones? I think it's John Jones. But like, some of my favorite black characters. But dude, what a throwaway fucking scene. Especially, I don't know. It really. It's like, did you guys just spend 10 fucking minutes, got an actor to reshoot a scene, or not even reshoot, do another scene, just so Lois Lane could have a fucking therapist session with Clark Kent's mom?
And they had no chemistry together either. I don't know if you noticed or not, but the way they were acting off each other was just so stale.
Yeah. And Diane Lane, don't get me wrong.
Hey, that's Bill Pullman's wife from ID4, man.
Beautiful woman, but
straight gilf.
Yeah, she's clearly like older, and I'm not holding that against her in any means, but she's clearly aged, and it's kind of jarring from some of the scenes you see her earlier in the movie, and then all of a sudden she's sitting at this table with a close up, and you're just like, okay, I can clearly tell that Martha just aged like 5 years. Like what just happened? And then it's compiled with a throwaway scene with Lois and a throwaway scene with Martian Manhunter. The only purpose that whole thing served was hype for Martian Manhunter, a character that does not serve any purpose in the movie. It's just like, hey, we put Martian Manhunter in here.
Well,
Cool,
they
right?
tried to. Part of it also is they're trying to build up this whole Lois Lane is the key thing, which I'm guessing is unique to the Snyder Cut, because I know in the Whedon cut that whole sequence in the Dark Universe where they lose never happens. So I don't think that they would have, oh, Lois Lane is the key, and then just like totally drop it.
Yeah.
So they made that to sort of set up the epilogue. But they also kind of just gilded the lily, like you said. It was jarring, the age difference. They should have dyed her hair or maybe put on more makeup, because you're right, she aged too much. A lot of these people in the reshoots, they don't really age that much because they're younger. You can't tell as much. But when people hit a certain age, there's a spot in the aging process where you do a lot of work over 5 years. A lot of changes happen, and she hit that, unfortunately. I don't know why they didn't fix that in post.
Third, and this probably might be the most controversial one, is Aquaman. Aquaman, first of all, I've never been a fan of Jason Momoa. I'm just going to put that out there. Jason Momoa is kind of a cocky prick, comes off as a cocky prick to me. He might be a really good, innocent dude. He might be a really perfect soul, If I ever met him, I would love to shake his hand. But nonetheless, maybe I just have a bad biased taste in my mouth from Stargate Atlantis and him replacing Teal'c and being the polar opposite personality and just never accepting it, But when I see him in this movie, I'm just like, you're kind of like just one of those stereotypical actors where it's just like people hire you to be Jason Momoa.
Yep.
People don't hire you to play their version of a character, And when I see all the scenes he did, which were pretty much all original scenes, they didn't age well at all. Like, especially the first start to the movie where
he rescues the fisherman. Oh, no. Okay, no.
Right. That's another throwaway scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's character building. I get why someone decided to put it in there, but at the same time, it's just like, but back to what I'm saying is like the beginning of the movie where they do like a Quentin Tarantino 10-minute style intro. It says walking on the cliffs, and it really is one of the worst scenes in the movie.
It is. I agree with you to the point where I will cement it. I will put it into, I'll chisel it into stone. That opening sequence with Batman climbing through the Himalayas to meet Aquaman in the frozen ice mountain land is just so cringy. It's like, A, why the fuck would Aquaman ever be there? B, this kind of seems like you're riding on Christopher Nolan's coattails, because have you ever seen Batman Begins? Felt a little...
Yeah, definitely. Dude, I didn't even think about that connection. That is so funny. It's like the same fucking mountain range, dude.
It really felt like it was, and I'm almost like, is this supposed to be a tribute to Christopher Nolan's Batman? Like, what's happening now?
It's so funny.
The acting of... I'll say Batfleck was a little bit better in the reshot scenes than he was in the original scenes. I think he figured out how to be a little bit better. Aquaman was really... He just isn't good. He's not a good actor. I think Jason Momoa just isn't a good actor.
Well, he's a male model. That's what... I'm not trying to say beautiful men have no brains, right? I'm not trying to say that, but it's just like you really see it personified when his exit of the scene is take off my shirt, but keep the tight, slim cut jeans on so I can swim fast under deep water. Like,
nonsensical. And it was, I guarantee
you saw how they filmed the scene. Like, he walked into the water at chest or waist deep, right? Just so they could really focus on his abs and his tattoos. And it's just like, that's not Aquaman.
No. You can tell that the Whedon cut had some things with Aquaman that's just like, well, we're trying to sell tickets to women, middle-aged women that love Jason Momoa. Because that scene where he rescues the fisherman, he goes in there, he's like, it's on him, and he steals the whiskey bottle, takes it out for them. I'm just like, A,
what a prick.
You're like the most dickish superhero of all time. And B, why do you need to do a slow walk onto the dock with the waves hitting your chest? Like, it's just so obvious that they're doing this just for
if the Zack Snyder grandiose music wasn't playing with it, it really would be telling to the viewer. If you just silence the music from that scene, you're like, this is a fucking Abercrombie and Finch ad or some cologne ad right now. Right? That's what this is.
It
right?
is totally. And I do really think that Snyder was deliberate using the soundtrack to save Whedon scenes, because a lot of the Whedon scenes were a lot better because the music Snyder put over them was crazy dramatic and just like, it felt like I was watching Tenet sometimes.
Yeah.
With
like he was trying to pull you away from something.
Just focus on the music, bro. It'll get better. Trust me.
It's like fucking Watchmen all over again when they're having that fucking ship sex scene and they play Hallelujah. It's like, I know this is an awkward sex scene, but Hallelujah.
Now, speaking of the soundtrack, which I thought was really good overall, though there were a few weird songs early on that were like Enya, like little, I don't even know, just odd for the rest of the soundtrack. Like they didn't mix. But specifically, one thing I enjoyed, and I'm not sure if I enjoyed it because of how stupid it was or that I actually like it, but every time Wonder Woman would show up, they would play the Xena Warrior Princess battle howl where they'd go, oh! And listen, they wouldn't just do it once per scene. Like there'd be a big fight and they'd all be fighting and she'd show up and it'd do the, oh! And she'd do her little thing. Then it would go to Flash fighting. Then it'd go back to Cyborg fighting. Then she'd show up again in the fight and it would do it again. Like it did it like 4 times in that final battle scene with Steppenwolf. I started to lose it towards the end. Like I started laughing out loud every time it would happen.
It's too much. It's a good example of too much seasoning. You know, it's just like,
oh, that was
it's
real seasoned. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really seasoned. Like you take a bite of that steak and you're like, I'll pass. You know, like, but it's just like, here you are with just this super fit, beautiful woman, Gal Gadot.
She's a goddess, man.
Playing an extremely well-known, powerful female figure, right? Like, has been co-opted for the face of feminism at some points in history, you know, like really well known. Like
she should be now. Feminism would be a lot better off if they based it on her.
No shit. But back to the point, I mean, it's just like, you don't need to put any seasoning on that. She's perfect. All right. And I'm not saying that like in a sexual sense, but I'm saying like,
well, you're saying that in addition to a sexual sense.
Indeed.
In addition.
But it's like when she hits her sword on Steppenwolf's axe and you just hear that for the first time, it's like, okay, Gal Gadot has entered the scene. I'm about this. But then, as you said, when it comes to Ezra Miller's Flash and then back to Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, you know, it's like, okay, I've seen Xena Warrior Princess, all right? I'm already swolled up, all right? You guys don't have to like pepper me anymore, all right? Like it just seems a bit much. And then after like the third time they do it, you're just like, oh, I get what they're doing. They're like, she's a woman, hear me roar. Like I need to stand out more than the men. And maybe this is just the man looking into it too much part of me, but it's just like, that is what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like, did they have some type of like conscious decision in the movie where it's just like, this is a lot of men around one woman, you know, we need to empower this woman more to make her stand out. And it's just, I don't know. It's like, I get where you come from. I get the ethics behind it, but at the same time, people like me, I'm just like, I see what you're doing. All right. And you can't perfect this goddess anymore. So you just need to step back before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. Other than that, I thought that Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman was fucking amazing, as usual. I liked her in Batman vs. Superman as well, even though it was a much smaller role. I liked her in the original Wonder Woman movie. I haven't seen 1984 yet. And it's interesting because I have some people that tell me it's great and some people that say it's fucking travesty. So like I'm I'm not sure if I'll ever watch it, but it's interesting how divided people are on that one.
Well, I've watched it, and I will tell you, it's bad.
Yeah.
There's some good performances in it, including what's his name plays Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And, like good, but like Kristen Wiig is Cheetah.
Oh God, Kristen Wiig.
I mean, I got nothing against Kristen Wiig. She's been in a couple movies I enjoy. I'm very well aware it's a director's and writing choice type of thing, but
is it a comedy movie? Is it supposed to be a comedy movie?
Yeah, it's kind of supposed to be drama comedy, you know,
Okay.
type of thing, but it's just like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
It's so like some of the choices. Not to get too off topic, but there's a point where Gal Gadot loses her powers and she dons this armor to gain some power back, and then she gets her powers back, but then like it's just weird. Like there's no explanation at all, and it's like two different movies were made and they like connected them and then like sanded it down smooth to make it look like it was one movie. But there's some scenes where they clash, and it's almost like the movie forgot about what it was doing. You know?
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
All right. Well, getting back to the Snyder Cut, who is your favorite main character in this movie? Like, who's your favorite Justice League character in this movie?
Flash, Ezra Miller.
Okay, good. I'm glad, because I was wondering if we disagree on that. I really liked Flash. I was surprised by Flash. I honestly am not. I'm not a DC fan in general. I love Batman and I love Superman because I grew up on those movies, but I never read DC comics. All my comic book was Marvel. I read Marvel through and through, never touched DC comics.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I hated the Justice League in principle. Whenever I would see people with Justice League comic books, I'd look and be like, oh, Aquaman was always like this weird nerd guy that talked to fish. I was just like, okay, you're like literally the lamest superhero of all time. And I always thought the Flash was kind of boring, like, oh, cool, he moves fast. And I was surprised how much I liked Flash in this movie, because I'm not a Flash fan and I wasn't predestined to like him, but he reminded me a lot of Justin Long from the 2000s era. Remember how Justin Long was in like a bunch of those movies where like he'd take over a college and like he'd kind of be the funny guy, or like in Waiting with Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. Yeah, Unaccepted with Lewis Black, the comedian Lewis Black. That was a great movie.
I was also a really young Jonah Hill, I think.
Oh, was he in that? I don't even remember. I haven't seen that movie in ages, but the Flash in Snyder Cut really reminded me of like that vintage Justin Long, and it was entertaining. It was surprising. Like there was this comedic aspect in the movie I didn't expect, and even all the way to the very end, I just liked the cut of his jib as a member of the Justice League. He was kind of there to be like the anchor a little bit. Everyone else was so like in the clouds. He was kind of like this anchor to the ground. And one thing that I might
be biased because I heard Ezra Miller just like punched somebody for asking for an autograph, and I was like, "My man, dude, get it,
awesome!"
Wow. And he was slandered all over the news for a minute. I think it ended up not being totally true. It might have been. He might be a piece of shit. I don't follow him too much, but when I heard it, I was just like, "Get it, bro." Get it. Yeah. Anyways, go on.
The thing I really liked about it is there were a few scenes where Batman was kind of lecturing the Justice League on like some plan that they were about to go on. Like there are a few moments of this movie where they're all kind of just like huddled around and Batman's like giving them the pep talk and saying, this is what we're going to do and blah, blah, blah. And I just remember there were a few times where Batfleck would give this really corny line that was just really bad acting. And Flash would kind of look at him and just look at him like, did you really fucking just say that? And it was really meta. I felt like it was really meta.
It's probably Ezra Miller in real time just being like, I can't believe we're actually fucking doing this.
Yeah, I swear to God it was. Like, I look at him like, oh, dude, even he thought that line was corny as fuck. That reaction.
Yeah, he was like the only one of, between the lesser actors, you know, because obviously you got Henry Cavill, you got Gal Gadot, and you got Ben Affleck, who are the Trinity. Not only are they the top billing actors, but they're also playing the top characters,
The most powerful.
in the universe. So Ezra Miller and Ray Fisher as Cyborg and Flash, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and who am I forgetting? I guess you can include Martian Manhunter. I don't know the actual actor's name.
He's the lead FBI director in The Blacklist.
I just don't know the actor's name.
He's awesome. I like him. I was really happy when I saw that he was the one playing Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, but Ezra Miller just like takes the cake. He I mean, even though he is like the top of the lesser actors, I think he still competes with the rest of them.
Yeah,
when you especially when you consider the scenes like where it looks like he's mocking at face value Ben Affleck's lines, and that's in some of the scenes.
Oh yeah, and I think that he gave such a strong performance in the end, where they're going through the plan and he's breaking the light speed barrier in a circle to generate enough power to activate the box. And like those moments where like it'd cut to him and be like, I can't hold this. Like, I don't know what it was about. I don't know if it was the cinematography, the CG, or his acting, but there was something about those scenes I loved. I ate that shit up. I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. Well, they, not to spoil too much, but, one of the biggest arcs for the Flash character is Flashpoint in the comics,
like reverses time on accident or something like that.
Not on accident. He's very well aware of what he's doing. So Barry Allen gets to a point where he becomes powerful enough and he actually can guarantee a travel back in time. Like he's aware of the ability. He knows what happens and he knows of the repercussions of it. Like people warn him, including like his arch nemesis, Eobard Thawne, who is the reverse Flash, the yellow Flash, if you will. But he at some point he tells him about it, and there's this huge overarching story that spans decades, where there's multiple flashpoints and repercussions of previous flashpoints, and nonetheless, but it pivots, or it really centers around the idea that Flash goes back in time to save his mom, and by so his dad never lives. And then there's also another point in the Flashpoint where Barry goes back and he actually changes Batman's past, where Bruce actually dies and Thomas, his dad, lives and becomes Batman, and he's like an asshole with glowing red eyes and shoots people dead with Colt 45s.
That's a Batman I'd like to see on the big screen.
And so when I saw that in the movie, it was really cool as a comic fan to just be like, oh shit, is this a Flashpoint? Oh shit, is this a Flashpoint? Oh shit, is this gonna happen?
Yeah.
But that scene just standalone was really, really cool. And it also gives you a lot of hope for the standalone Flash film, which at this point, with the love the Snyder Cut is getting, I'm hoping, for the love of fucking God, I'm hoping that they make a conscious effort to do a lot of reshoots in that movie or do some rewrites and make sure it connects well. Because now that the Snyder Cut's out, Aquaman don't make sense.
No.
Let's just be out there. Some of the scenes don't make sense anymore. And there's just some plot holes with Aquaman now.
Yeah.
And it's only because Snyder left and a solo movie happened without him being around to say anything. So it's anybody's real fault, but it's kind of just like, don't do that with the Flash, please.
It's really a lack of foresight on DC's part, or whoever is the controlling interest of these DC movies and this DC universe that they were trying to build before they tore it down again. It just seems like they had no faith. I think that they really just
got cold feet.
Well, I think Batman versus Superman was kind of limited because of Batfleck's limited abilities as an actor, and it brought the movie down more than it should. Like, if you really look at Batman versus Superman, if you had a better Batman in that movie, it would have been a much better movie. he really brought it down a lot. And I think that they believed the press a little too much. Oh, maybe Zack Snyder's overrated. Maybe this was a mistake. And they, like you said, they got cold feet and they handed it over to Joss Whedon, who took a flaming dump on it.
That's not. I mean,
they could have waited for Zack Snyder's
daughter died, right?
They could have waited,
and he left. It wasn't like they let go of Zack Snyder,
right? Everyone knows that, but he could. Yeah. They could have waited for him to come back. They chose to say, you know what? We're not going to wait for you. We're giving it to Joss Whedon. That is a conscious choice they
That's
made.
Cold-blooded, really.
It's just lack of foresight. They're dumb executives that don't understand that Zack Snyder really had a master plan going. And man, this release of this movie is really going to ruffle some. If I were one of the new DC movies right now, currently in development, I would be worried because Zack Snyder kind of just came like this backdraft saying, oh, you thought that, you're the new thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see those numbers on HBO Max. Let's see if the Snyder Cut might become the Snyder Trilogy, and that could make some big changes to these upcoming movies. That Aquaman 2 that's had filming troubles, and Amber Heard just got kicked off, and they're recasting her apparently. All these things happening. If I were one of those people in one of those movies, like Patterson's new Batman, The Batman. Again, that movie looks good. I like the idea of Matthew McConaughey as Two-Face. Like, there's a lot of really cool. Colin Farrell as Penguin, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's some really cool things in that movie that sound good, and I'd still be a little worried if I was them, thinking, okay, Snyder could kind of be a whirlwind and just destroy everything new that came after him, because the Snyder Cut was good, in my opinion. It was a good movie, and I think
not only was it good, but it showed that what they had was redeemable.
It shows Joss Whedon fucked the pooch, is what it showed.
Because you're kind of getting to a very crucial point where it's like, when you think about the Patterson Batman Batman is a flashpoint in DC films, if you will. Like, that is supposed to be the definitive start of something new, a refresh, a retry from what they thought was a failure. Now the Snyder Cut comes out and it's like, it wasn't a failure. It just needed love. And now it's like Patterson's like, fuck.
Yeah, now all of a sudden, Joaquin Phoenix may not become another Joker, and all of a sudden, Pattinson might not be the Batman. Batfleck could be back now, dude. Even though he doesn't deserve it, he's not the reason why the Snyder Cut's good.
Yeah,
he did get a little better, but
I think DC is smart to some avail, because if you really think back now, the idea of making the DC Black label was extremely smart and crucial for optics. Because when the Joker came out, they were like, this is standalone. This is its own darker universe. This is going to be like our Black label, blah, blah, blah. And then Batman is the next Black label DC film. I think maybe they knew, that in hindsight, you got to think like, man, did they kind of know they were going to give Snyder another try, and that there potentially could be two different universes rolling at once, and that eventually they were going to be like, let's just see which one comes out on top type of thing, because that's ultimately where I think this is going. You're going to have the DC Black label, which is going to be super gritty, kind of like what they thought the most appealing parts of Snyder's universe was, but amplify it in the DC Black label, a la Joker, and now the Batman. But now, it's just like you said, now that Snyder's here, it's like it kind of throws a monkey wrench. But the fact that they were smart enough to make that label makes you think that they kind of knew. Or why would they go out of their way to make another DC universe? Like, they literally separated it after it was dead. Like, no one even liked that universe. The Snyder Cut wasn't even announced yet. And they're like, this is the DC Black label. They were already just being like, this is over, this starting.
So it sounds like you're on board then with me, and you think that DC/WB/ whoever the fuck's really in charge of these DC movies. I'm not really clear on that, but whoever is in charge.
China.
Do you think they're going to buckle and give Snyder a sequel?
For sure. Especially after Snyder's power play to the public. Like, I don't think they have another choice. It's like they like money, don't they?
It seems like a no-brainer to me because it was just good. Like, when you watch that, and it's 4 hours, and there's a few movies I've watched that long. One of them's Cloud Atlas, made by the Wachowski brothers. And I didn't like that movie very much. I couldn't make it through that movie. There are movies that are that long that you just like, you're like, okay, this is not good. Like, and even if it is good, you're like, it's not worth the 4 hours. So it's, you know, with this Snyder Cut, I was like, this is the easiest 4 hour movie I've ever gotten through.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. The 4 hours flew by for me, besides like the 18 pisses I needed to take.
Well, we're not going to ask why you had to take 18 pisses, but go on.
It's just like, it did really fly by. When you sit down, get ready to watch a 4 hour movie, you're just like, man, I don't want to be here forever. Like, I'm going to get hungry. I'm going to have to take a shit, and I don't want to take a shit on somebody else's toilet or some public toilet, like, so
yeah.
Think about these things, but Justice League, I sat down, powered right through it.
Yep.
No shit needed.
Yeah, it was surprising. It was very easy to watch for that long of a movie. And really the only tough part to get through was kind of the very beginning. So it's like, they put the stuff that would be hard to get through that might make you turn off the movie at the very beginning on purpose, I feel like. And then as you get through it more and more, it's just getting better. There's no drop off where you're like, all right, I'm going to pause this and go get some snacks and just like do something else for a while.
No, not at all. I mean, was there another, I feel like there was another movie that people were recently talking about that was like in theaters before the pandemic. That was like a long time. It was like 3 hours and 3.5 hours or something like that. And people were like talking about it the same way. Maybe I was making it up in my head, but I'm trying to think of like, what was that movie that was like, I feel like there were people talking about a movie that was way longer than usual just recently that wasn't Justice League. And people were complaining about like having to. Oh, it was Endgame.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Endgame. Wasn't Endgame like 2.5 hours long?
It felt long,
and, yeah. And like people were like, I remember people making like their virtue signaling posts or whatever online, and they're just like, hey, just taking my third break, going to the bathroom. Endgame's amazing. Like it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Endgame was a lot harder to get through. There was way more boring stuff. The story wasn't even nearly as compelling. It was
fight scenes were better.
Yeah, the fight scenes were higher budget.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm going to give credit for, and I'm not sure if this is unique to the Snyder Cut or not, but the way that the characters comboed off of each other was really well done. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it reminded me of like a Chrono Trigger from SNES, like double techs and triple techs, where characters would kind of just join up and do like a special attack together.
Reminded me of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Oh, there you go. That too. Yeah, like the way that they combo together, it was just like, yeah, this is well done. This isn't like, it's not just like cut to this character doing something cool, then cut to this character doing something cool, and then like it all just kind of just being little set pieces of them looking cool. It was actually like a mechanical scene of like Wonder Woman does this, the Flash does this, Cyborg comes in and does this. Oh, out of nowhere, Batman shows up and does this. I liked it. I just really thought that was well done and not something typical of current superhero movies, I feel like.
Well, it was almost like the polar opposite, right? Like Justice League almost didn't even. I mean, they had fight scenes, but the way they were executed were not at all like Marvel. Whereas like Marvel has kind of like a stand far back approach and kind of actually see you throw punches, and it's actually like the scene is built for you to actually see a fight between two different characters. Whereas DC's approach is more like more instrumental parts of a machine moving. Like, as you said, like a character comes in and does one thing and weakens the character, and then another character comes in and pushes them off the ledge and then drops down where Batman's at or someone else is at, and they do a death blow. And, you know, like it's not really a choreographed fight more than just a sequence of events that, you know, plays out. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of choreographed fighting in Justice League. And if it is, it's super close up. Or it's CGI.
There's a lot of CGI. There's one specifically with Steppenwolf in the sewer where they were fighting him like down in the sewers. And also, one thing I really want to say is that I love the fact that Steppenwolf feels like a villain from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that's not an insult. I loved that about it. Like his little flying bug guys just reminded me of, it's just so cool. Like I love that aspect of it. But down in that fight, I noticed that whole fight sequence with the Justice League versus Steppenwolf down there, they CG'd the characters a few times. Like there's this one scene where Wonder Woman was doing like this double backflip over Steppenwolf, and if you look closely, that was not her. That was CG.
No, of course not. That's the thing with DC's characters, you know, is that all of them are so OP. Like,
yes,
DC's characters are like literal gods, whereas Marvel has one character that's a god. You know, like all the rest are kind of like they have like a mutant ability, you know, but it's not like world breaking. Like, I mean, Superman can literally crack the world in half if he wanted. Ezra Miller's Flash could literally change time if he wanted. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, I think, is like almost as powerful as Superman. Almost, you know, it's like she could do a lot of damage herself. Ray Fisher's Cyborg literally could destroy the whole electronic ecosystem on the planet. You know, like they're all gods in their own way. Like when you look at MCU, it's like Black Widow is a hot female Russian spy that can do a lot of backflips and break a lot of necks, you know, and then then you got Thor, who's a literal god. Then you got Iron Man, who's a human in an iron suit. And then you got Captain America, who's a mutant. You know, he has super strength. He can break a rock in half. He can split some wood in half, but he's not fucking Superman.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm going to say that there's only one real Captain America now, and his name is Henry Cavill. Superman is Captain America. Captain America has given up his mantle, and the wokeness will no longer allow for there to be a real Captain America until Disney is subdued.
Until communism is defeated again.
Yeah. Pretty soon, Captain America is going to be wearing a Che Guevara hat.
Dude, you're not so far off from the truth.
That's coming, and that's why I declare right now Henry Cavill is both Superman and Captain America. And speaking of, very small role for Superman in this movie, but I liked it. I liked the whole thing. I liked the fact that he was evil when they revived him. I loved that, actually. That was my favorite part. One of my favorite parts of the entire movie was evil Superman going after Justice League. And I liked the arc of him like seeing his lover, the love of his life, and being like starting to remember, and then going to the house, and then like fully remembering. And I love the fact that he went to his ship, looked at all the suits, and then he found the black suit, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm Black Superman now." I love that part. I loved the way that he showed up at the end and just took Steppenwolf down like a bitch. That was awesome. I loved Superman's fight with Steppenwolf.
Fucking cut that dude's horn in half. It was such a power move.
It was, man. Man, yeah, I'm a big fan of Henry Cavill's Superman. I think that he is the best Superman. I love Christopher Reeves, but I think that Cavill is the best Superman. And
it's a shame you're probably never going to get him again.
I know. I really hope, if for nothing else, that the Snyder Cut extends that version of Superman, because I love Man of Steel so much.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I think it's still my favorite. out of the DC films.
It's one of the best for sure. Maybe it's not better than Dark Knight, but I think it's up there in the top echelon for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just such a fan of Michael Shannon, dude. That was such a dope movie.
Yeah, that was probably like he was one of the best choices you could ever pick for Zod. Like I could not even think of a better pick. Living, that is. Maybe Vincent Price would have been a great pick if he was still alive, but he's not. So I'm gonna go with Michael Shannon for now. That being said, let's before we close out here, let's go a little bit deeper into Jared Leto's Joker, who is only in this movie for one scene at the very end in the epilogue. I was surprised because the whole "we live in a society" thing wasn't in the movie. What's up with that?
It was actually ad-libbed by Jared Leto, and
it's in the trailer, but it's not in the movie.
Warner Films actually told Snyder he wasn't allowed to put it in the film.
What?
Yeah. It was part of one of the things that he was not allowed to put in the film.
That's weird. Why the fuck would they care about that?
Because the history of the meme.
So they don't... Dude, they said that because they don't want him to become too popular because they don't want to give him another movie. That's what that was.
I mean, the way like I felt like they were like considering it Pepe 2.0 or something like that. They're like, we're not going to put Pepe the Frog in our film. It's like, what? Like, yeah. It's so weird.
Well, I have to say I like that scene, the real scene that's in the movie with Jared Leto. And I have to say, I think that we're very timely with our sunsetting of the Joker rating system, because I think that this scene kind of put him a little bit above Cesar Romero. Like, I got some real respect points with this guy based on this scene. His updated portrayal of Joker is good. I loved his laugh. That was good.
It kind of gives me like almost like some Leatherface vibes.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the vibe I got from his white fucking butcher wardrobe with the insane asylums. I don't know if it was an asylum suit on and then he had a white butcher apron on over it. I'm not quite sure what his wardrobe was, but yeah, it gave me some Leatherface vibes.
Yeah, he felt like a horror movie Joker for sure, and
no doubt.
I got some serious respect for his performance on that. I feel like that was his redemption arc. We saw his redemption arc, and it's sad that it's probably not going to lead to anything. But dude, if it does lead to something, and we do get the next Snyder version of the Justice League, we're going to be seeing Batfleck and Jared Leto's new and improved, insane horror movie Joker working together in this like dystopian wasteland dark universe. Does that not sound like an amazing fucking movie?
Dude, if that movie got announced tomorrow, I'll just be like, Marvel got something to compete with. There's a period. Like, if they greenlit that with Zack Snyder, I don't know. Something tells me DC has a bright future, and J.J. Abrams' Black Superman does not.
Well, that being said, Broadcaster Nichols, before we get to our official reverse Joss Whedon rating system review score of the Snyder Cut, I have one little segment I want to introduce in this one-time special episode that we will never do again. And it's called the WTF Moment. What is the moment of this movie that made you say, what the fuck?
I mean, there wasn't a lot. I think the real scene where I really was confused, I think, was a part of the original cut. But again, because
it's hard to
Aquaman came out, it just makes the scene age really bad, and you're just like, why didn't they reshoot this, or why didn't they just get rid of this scene? Like, is it that? It's when Aquaman comes in to save Amber Heard's Mira from Steppenwolf underwater.
Oh yeah.
It made literally no sense. He did not meet her at any point in that movie before then. They weren't supposed to know each other, and he just kind of zooms in and saves her. And like even in that scene, they're not even supposed to know each other. But it feels like they know each other, but they're acting like they don't know each other.
Yeah.
It's really weird for me. Like, as like this scene has like 3 things going wrong with it right now. It's
Yeah, there was a lot of dramatic slow-mo in this movie, and I'm guessing that if people don't like this movie and they have a big complaint about it, I'll bet that's going to be the big one, is that, oh, there's too many slow-mos and blah, blah, blah. I actually thought most of the slow-mos were pretty cool, especially the one with Flash early on, where he saves the girl he meets at his job interview. Even though,
Iris West.
yeah, even though I didn't like that. Remember we were talking about soundtrack being good, but there was a few weird songs. That's one of them. The one where it was playing while he saved that girl. It was bizarre, and it did not feel like it belonged in the movie.
I like how he did an Always Sunny joke though, and he pulled a hot dog out of his pocket. He's like, "I brought pocket meat." I felt Danny DeVito's spirit in that scene.
Yeah, it's weird that whole Amber Heard thing. They're trying to like do a slow-mo there. And the slow-mo was like to set, like, it's like a writing term. You hang a lantern on it. Be like, oh, they won't think it's weird because we're showing them that it's weird. And they did that with this scene because when Amber Heard first sees Aquaman show up to save her, they do this weird slow-mo where they like lock eyes, like love at first sight or some shit. And I'm just in here like, oh, dude, I see through you right now. I know what you're doing right now, and it's not working.
I don't know. I think sometimes I just think maybe it's deep down, it's just my consciousness being like, Amber Heard's a bitch. Just get her out of here. But at the same time, I'm just like, where did this scene come from? Like,
it should have been
Aquaman. Cut. There was no distress beacon. It wasn't like Aquaman's like, my stand-in for the Empire is in trouble, or my queen's in trouble, or my future ex-wife's in trouble, or like whatever. It was just like Mira's fighting to protect the box, which is the only part that makes sense in that scene. Is the actual setup to the scene where Mira and the soldiers are like, all right, do a perimeter, and then fucking Steppenwolf just appears out of the boom tube and like from the depths and starts fucking them up, right? Like that all makes sense. That is smooth. But when Aquaman just jettisons in to save her, it's like you did not have a scene where Aquaman was becoming privy to what was happening. There was no, hey, Ben's like, why don't you go check on your box down in the ocean type of thing. Like there was nothing like that. It was just it's just weird.
Yeah, I think they should have cut Amber Heard out, and they should have redid some scenes with Willem Dafoe, and they should have made him the centerpiece of the box getting stolen from Atlantis, because that's really all it was all about, is they wanted to have a scene where they showed each box getting stolen. And
but then Heard being in the epilogue scene wouldn't have made sense.
No, it wouldn't have. And so if that epilogue scene is new, that means Snyder, you don't think it is?
No, the part when you saw in the trailer where he says we live in a society, that's new.
So that whole thing with the dark universe happened in the Whedon cut too?
For sure. Where do you think the nightmare scenes with Batfleck in the leather coat fighting the evil SWAT and Superman hunting him down from the original cut came from? Notice how that was mysteriously gone from this cut?
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that Dark Universe movie that's probably hasn't been seen.
Interesting. All right.
Including Flash, because like the scene in BVS with Flash traveling back in time to warn Batman, I think part of Batman's vision or whatever, it was some of the Dark Universe scenes. So it's like they've had that whole little cut in the making for a while.
All right. Well, I don't like Amber Heard. This is what I'm going to say. If they do give Snyder his second movie, I think he should use Amber Heard, but he should make her sign a contract that says half of your paycheck and royalties are going to Johnny Depp. I want it to happen, and if it does, I will be okay with
Be such an alpha move.
Oh,
you can be in my movie, but half your wages go to a man. Just say it just like that.
That being said, my what the fuck moment is a little more esoteric and probably a little bit more fringe. I don't think a lot of people will pick up on this, but Ben Affleck, Batfleck, Batman in Justice League. When did he become a Goa'uld? Did I miss something? Dude, when he has the Batman suit on, he speaks like a Goa'uld from Stargate. I actually literally was expecting his eyes to glow yellow at certain points of that show. Where it's like, it's so arbitrary too. Like there are times where he has the suit on where he doesn't talk like a Goa'uld. Like he's talking like a normal Ben Affleck. And then one sentence later, he's back to sounding like a Goa'uld again. What was that, Broadcaster Nichols?
I was like already 4 drinks in when we started the Snyder Cut, and when Ben first starts talking out of uniform, that was like the first thing I noticed, and I said out loud, I was like, "Why is he talking like Batman right now? He doesn't want people to know he's Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he uses his Batman voice, everyone's gonna know. It's like Clark Kent walking around without glasses on all the time. People are gonna notice eventually, right? He has to keep the glasses on. It really made no sense to me. But then when he put the Batman suit on, he like makes that voice even deeper by 10 times. I was like, holy shit, that's fucking goldish.
That was bizarre. And is there an explanation about that? Like, I know
Batman off his first prime.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Like, it's like, dude, when did he become a Goa'uld? I saw Batman versus Superman. He didn't sound like that in that.
No, dude.
Like,
it was
what
like
happened?
Whedon. It was like it's like I didn't notice it in the original cut, or it was Snyder that made him do it. But they were like, we want you to deepen that Batman voice, deep as you can go, just deep.
It's so jarring, dude. It was so jarring every time it happened. I'm just sitting here like
the villagers call you Aquaman, right?
Fucking, I just kept expecting Jason Momoa to just yell Jaffa Kree at him. Like, what is happening here?
Been so apt, dude. So meta.
That would have been a real meta moment. All right, Broadcaster Nichols. Well, it's fair to say that Joss Whedon is in a safe room somewhere masturbating to tranny porn while he contemplates the end of his career. Let's contemplate our reverse Joss Whedon rating system that we will use one time only in this movie review. This system is simple. The best rating is 1 Joss Whedon. The worst rating is 5 Joss Whedons. On that system, Broadcaster Nichols, what do you rate the Snyder Cut of Justice League?
0 Whedons.
Damn it, Broadcaster Nichols, you're not allowed to do that.
I'll give it 1 Whedon. Whedon sounds like something I scrape off the bottom of my shoe. Ah, crap, I stepped in some Whedon.
It sounds like the sludge that comes out of a bong that hasn't been cleaned in 15 years.
Oh, God. I totally forgot
Whedon.
about those. Man, bong water, man.
Bong water, man.
Damn.
That's a real Whedon you got there.
Dude, I remember my bro handed me a bong, and I took one look at it one time, and I was just like, I'm not hitting out of that. And he looked at me like I was the most pretentious fuck in the world. He was like, you're not going to take a hit out of my bong, because he actually sounded like Batman. He had a really deep voice for his age.
You're not going to hit out of my bong.
Yeah, he's like, in a really pissed off voice, he's like, you're not going to hit out of my bong. I was just like, dude, you swap that water out, I might. And I didn't follow him inside. He came back out to the porch with like this shocked, pale look. And he's like, dude, there was a fucking centipede in my fucking bong water, bro. And I was like, and he's like,
God.
And he's like, thanks for telling me, man. I just didn't think you had a change bong one. I was like, you didn't think you had a change bong? How long was that in there, man?
That dude was smoking caterpillars, bro.
He was smoking sludge, bro.
Damn.
Straight sludge.
Well, I'm gonna give that bong 5 Whedons, but
yeah, it's only 5 Whedon for sure.
But I'm gonna give the Snyder Cut 2 Whedons. Because I think that Whedon's demonic footprint was too large to erase fully. But I think what happened here is that Snyder grabbed this movie out of the depths of hell and dragged it out and gave it a solid pedigree, but the ghost of Whedon still presides. There's a few scenes, especially early on, where you're like, you can feel his presence breathing down your neck like you're a 18-year-old Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, I feel like there's levels, right? There's 4 head, 5 head, Sam's fabled forehead, and then there's Joss Whedon's forehead. You know?